singles me out in front of the whole group, and he looks at me directly in the eyes and he says, Jonathan, he said, I can kill somebody right now, he said, and I'm going to heaven. And I remember him making these claims, and in my head, even as somebody who didn't understand Christianity, I was like, that doesn't make sense. Why would we serve a God like this? This is very shallow. And I challenged him and I said, hey, that doesn't make sense. I'm gonna learn the gospel, I'm gonna read the gospels, I'm gonna learn the faith, and I'm gonna show you that you don't know what you're talking about. My experience of Orthodoxy has been very positive. On one day you feel very confident, like, oh, the Catholic Church is the one true church, there's no way. Then another day you're presented with some information, from the Orthodox perspective, and you're like, wow, actually now I have something to consider, because I knew that if I share this with the world, other people can come to find the truth in this church. I'm someone who hasn't decided yet, but many people that have stumbled upon my content, they do make that decision. Some of the people that I've met, you can feel the prayer dripping from their soul.
Hello, friends, and welcome back to Dust and Glory, a podcast about faith, beauty, and the real life of Orthodoxy in today's world. Sometimes the most powerful stories of faith are not told from the pulpit, but from the camera lens. They're told by people who start searching, questioning, and creating, and somehow end up bringing thousands closer to church. Jonathan, the creator behind Roots of Faith, Roots of Orthodoxy, and The Voice of Reason, began his journey as a Catholic, searching for truth in the noise of modern spirituality. What started as curiosity became a quiet, persistent pull towards the ancient church, towards beauty, reverence, and the living faith of the apostles. Through his interviews, Jonathan has helped many rediscover what Christianity once looked like: sacred, disciplined, incarnate. Yet his own journey is still unfolding, thoughtful, honest, and full of humility. Today we'll talk about what it means to seek truth with an open heart, and about why, even in the age of confusion, Orthodoxy continues to speak softly but with authority. So join me, friends, for this conversation with our wonderful guest, Jonathan, from the Roots of Faith. Before we start, I just wanted to remind you that this video is a collaboration between the Western Diocese of Armenian Church and myself. We would really appreciate it if you subscribe to my channel, Ola Sona, as well as the channel of the Western Diocese of the Armenian Church WD, and Jonathan's channel, Roots of Faith, and his other channels. You will find all the links in the description to this video. And now let's welcome our wonderful guest, Jonathan. I'm so excited to have you here.
Thank you so much for having me. Appreciate it. I'm honored. I love this. I love the setup. I love what you're doing. Thank you so much for having me be part of it.
The pleasure is ours. I want to start here. I first wanted to thank you for your ministry. You brought to the light Orthodox teaching. You were one of the pioneers in this, with such a treasured honesty and such a treasured beauty. You were talking about Orthodoxy in this modern world that's full of noise and full of distraction. Yet you remain Catholic to this day.
Right.
How is your journey unfolding? Tell us about it.
Well, it's definitely a long journey so far. I mean, I've been doing this for about 2 years now. I started in October 13th, 2023. And it's been a beautiful journey. It's been a big blessing so far. So initially I started with helping my good friend Alex with, our channel Voice of Reason. And I was behind the scenes, just a camera guy, getting to learn from him as he presented Catholic teaching. And eventually that opened the door for me to learn more about Christianity, to start to fall in love with, the church, finding the ancient church. He introduced me to his parish, which is a Byzantine Catholic parish. Once I started to kind of dive into that, I started to fall in love with the Eastern tradition. So once I got exposed to the Eastern tradition, I started hearing that word Orthodox a lot. So I was like, well, what's Orthodoxy? And on my own, I just ventured out and started visiting Eastern Orthodox churches. And in my process, I started building relationships with priests, and eventually I asked them, I say, hey, can I put you on camera? So my background is in content creation. So I was like, I know that I can simultaneously present their teachings while I learn from them, while I continue to build relationships. And I know that this is a net positive for other people to learn about Orthodoxy, whether or not they want to become Orthodox, but they get to learn and see what it is. You know, a lot of people, at least here in the West, they're not familiar with what Eastern Orthodoxy is, or at least not in the time that I started back in 2023. And then eventually I expanded my conversations with my new channel, Roots of Faith, where I interact with Oriental Orthodox, Catholics, Eastern Orthodox, and I just have fun, you know, theological conversations, some roundtable discussions. But you asked me, where am I on my journey right now? It's been interesting. It's been interesting because on one hand, my best friend is a big, you know, Catholic apologist. So I have access to, you know, a great source of like Catholic teaching. And then on the other hand, I'm connected to so many different Orthodox theologians and apologists and content creators and priests and bishops. And it's been kind of difficult just kind of navigating that because there's so much tension, but there's also so much that is in harmony with each other. And right now where I'm at, I always tell people is like, I really am drawn to the spirituality in the Eastern Orthodox Church. Intellectually, the Catholic faith makes the most sense to me personally, if I'm being fully transparent. You know, I take a look at the claims of the Catholic Church, and it's very palpable. It's very rational, a lot of the claims that the Catholic Church makes. So right now I'm taking it one step at a time. I'm not rushing. I'm being patient. The Orthodox Church is very special to me, and I'm trying to give it its proper respect and taking my time with it. You know, I just came back from an Eastern Orthodox monastery not that long ago, and in speaking with the monks and the priests that are so full of love, joy, and humility, even some of them admitted to me like, hey, it took me 15 years after I discovered Orthodoxy, even though I kind of knew I wanted to become Orthodox, it took me 15 years to finally pull the trigger. Some of the monks say 20 years, you know, so I know that it's something that you have to be careful in and give it its proper respect. And especially now that I have this channel, Roots of Orthodoxy, I want to be mindful of the responsibility of having the platform. So yeah, I mean, in brief, I'm still learning. There's so much to unpack. I don't think you're ever really going to finish learning everything. I mean, even just the scriptures, getting to know the Bible, that you can go your entire lifetime without knowing everything that's in the scripture. So I'm very patient. I'm not trying to make this an intellectual journey where it's just like, you know, I need to check all the boxes and whichever one makes the most sense at the end of the day, that's where I'm going to go. It has to be an experience. You know, it has to also be, you know, where can I find the truest form of repentance? Where can I grow the most spiritually? And where can I lead others to that spirituality? I think of it like the life-giving spring. Like, how can I lead other people to that water after I discover the true life-giving spring? So I'm being patient with it. I know that's not a satisfactory answer for a lot of people because they want you to pick. They want you, you know, what side of the fence do you fall on? I love both, and I'm taking my time with it. And I'm starting to develop relationships now with the Oriental Orthodox. You know, we're here at a beautiful Armenian cathedral, and there's so much treasure, so many gems to be found in all of the apostolic traditions. And for me, really, it's about unpacking, you know, what did Christ, what was the church that he built, and what is the church that continues to the present day? I want to be a part of that church. And it may not be my preference, but whatever it is, I want to be part of it. I want to be united to that church, and I want to lead people to that church. But as of right now, I'm actually, you know, just really enjoying every step of the way, you know, getting to taste the fruit that each apostolic tradition has to offer. And I'm not someone who's like a relativist and just saying, oh, we're all the same, it doesn't really matter. But I do recognize, you know, the Coptic Church has something very unique and special that it offers. The Catholic Church has something very unique and special. The Orthodox Church, and getting to dive into that and have the opportunity to do what I do and talk to people. It's been a big blessing. So I thank God for it every day.
Wow. I know that you were raised Catholic. Are you a practicing Catholic now?
Yes, I am. Yes. Yeah.
Would you say that the Roots of Faith and Roots of Orthodoxy started as a means to document your own faith journey?
Yes, definitely. So Roots of Orthodoxy, it was part inquiry, part investigation, but also part sharing with others, because I knew that if I share this with the world, other people can come to find, the truth in this church. I'm someone who hasn't decided yet, but many people that have stumbled upon my content, they do make that decision. When I go to Orthodox churches or even Catholic churches, people will come up to me and say, hey, I'm here because I saw one of your videos. Usually when I'm at the Catholic church, they're bringing up Voice of Reason. So I saw a Voice of Reason video. But when I'm at the Orthodox church, they're saying, well, I saw one of the priests and the way he spoke about Christ just really resonated with me. And I want to have that, whatever that priest has, I want that. So yeah, it's been, so it's part investigation, but it's also, I know the impact that it's having on people. So that's why I continue to do what I do. So it does put me in an awkward place because it's kind of like, oh, you're playing for both sides. You have to pick one. I think where I'm currently at, I think I can kind of do what I do, but eventually, we'll see where the journey ends, how long that takes, and what that looks like when the time comes.
I know that previously you've been interested in Stoicism and also Islam, which makes sense to me that after Stoicism you would consider Islam. Could you tell us a little bit about that part of your biography, of your journey, and what were you seeking in Islam?
Yeah, so starting with the Stoic philosophy, I think that's where I wanted to root my spirituality. It really cultivated a love for the virtues, the four cardinal virtues, and understanding this concept of self-denial, and I saw that in people like Marcus Aurelius, who was an emperor that had access to everything and anything that a man could want. All of the women that he could possibly desire, all of the, the riches, the wealth, the wine, the food, anything that, and he denied himself and he said, I'm not going to do that because that's not virtuous. So I really respected that. And I saw that and I saw my understanding of Christianity at the time was very shallow. My exposure was very Protestant. So when I looked at Christianity, I said, this is a shallow faith. It doesn't compare at all to what I'm finding in these wise men, these lovers of wisdom, the Stoic philosophers. I've had, negative experiences with Protestants in the past. I didn't know they were Protestants at the time. A good friend of mine, one time he took me to volunteer with him for a summer program, and it was a Protestant group. I didn't really understand what it was at the time, but there was one instance where they invited us to go participate in a Protestant Protestant
worship,
whatever it is that they do. I didn't know the distinction at the time. I thought everybody was just Catholic. So I go to the church, whatever, and then because we were volunteers, we got like a private like VIP meet and greet with him or something. And I remember him talking to our group, and I was the only person that was challenging him because I was like, this doesn't make sense what you're saying. Like, this stuff sounds stupid. And it was stupid because he was presenting the idea that he can commit any horrible act and his salvation is secure. He fell under this, Protestant heresy.
Was he a Calvinist?
I don't know what it was. It was a Korean group. So it was some type of Protestantism, and he, whatever it is, once saved, always saved, or whatever the case is, eternal security. And I remember him making these claims, and in my head, even as somebody who didn't understand Christianity, I was like, that doesn't make sense. Why would we serve a God like this? This is very shallow. And I challenged him and I said, hey, that doesn't make sense. Like, why would you say that? And I had kept challenging him, and then he wanted to make an example out of me. So he singles me out in front of the whole group, and he looks at me directly in the eyes and he says, Jonathan, he said, I can kill somebody right now. He said, and I'm going to heaven. What? And then, and I was like, once I heard that, I was like, Christianity is
doomed.
Is stupid. This is a dumb faith. It really is. And I left that experience not really caring much about Christianity. But fast forward, Alex has always been, a good friend of mine. We've known each other since we were 5 years old. We went to kindergarten. We've known each other since we were kids. He's always been pretty knowledgeable of the faith. He was a catechist at, I think, like 16 years old, teaching the adults. So that shows how much knowledge he had at such a young age. And so anyway, fast forward, we're a little bit older. We're in our 20s. And he starts really pressing me about the faith and about my beliefs. And I couldn't hold a candle to what he was saying. And it really frustrated me. And then one day in particular, we're at a friend's house and he's really putting me on the spot about it. And, I'm full of pride and like, he's really putting me on the spot, and it really frustrated me that I didn't have an answer to what he was saying. So I said, you know what, I'm going to learn the gospel. I'm going to read the gospels. I'm going to learn the faith, and I'm going to show you that you don't know what you're talking about, that what you believe, you're misconstruing Christ's message. I did, in a way, believe in Christ as some mystical teacher or something. And anyway, I started getting into reading the Gospels, and that slowly opened my mind to...
Can I interrupt you and ask you, which Gospel did you start with?
Matthew, yeah.
Okay,
so I ordered the Word on Fire.
Usually people choose the Gospel of St. Mark because it's shorter, so they can prove that.
Yeah. I didn't even know what I was reading. So I ordered the Word on Fire volume of the Gospels, and it starts with Matthew, and that's what they recommend to start with. And so I started with that. And then I slowly start to see, okay, I slowly start to get open-minded about it. But this leads to your question. You had asked me about Islam. At the time, I was still kind of with this idea that Christ is pointing us to the one true God. There's constant reference about, we need to focus our attention to God the Father. Obviously, Muslims wouldn't acknowledge that God is the Father, but there was this deflection of like, don't honor me, honor the Father. And so that was very appealing to me at the time. I think this was 2023, maybe 2022, when Andrew Tate started to really get really popular. And he always had this fascination with Islam, because I've been following him for a while. Before he became Muslim, he would always talk very favorably about the faith, about Islam. And that really got me interested in it. And I was like, well, I want to do what he's doing. I want to look into Islam. I had friends that are Muslims. They would give me a Quran and stuff like that. And I started to go down that rabbit hole. But thankfully I didn't. I stuck with Alex, Voice of Reason, and we started making content. And I slowly started to fall in love with the Christian faith and realize that it is the true faith.
You once said that the things that people are usually searching in Islam, the reverence, the ascetic practices, the visible tradition, all of these things you can find in Oriental or Eastern Orthodox. Right. You said Orthodoxy,
even
but I
Catholic
assume...
Church.
Or
Yes.
Catholic Church in the Byzantine Rite, right? So could you tell us, do you think most of the people are seeking for those things?
Yeah.
Could you unpack that a little bit?
Definitely. I think we're living in a moment where people are seeking a deep spirituality, especially with all the tragedy that's happening in our world. They want an answer to it. And they see a lot of the debauchery in our society, and they say, I want an answer to this. Why is it that these things are happening? And look at the life of people that have secularist ideologies where they don't believe in structure. They don't believe in marriage. They don't believe in monogamy. They don't believe in, the traditional norms. So they're like, what can I find that is rooted and it's stable and it's not going to move? So they look at Islam, and it does look very appealing. They have structure. They have these ascetical practices. Men want to be challenged, and they see that and they say, I really desire that. I want to fast. I want to worship a higher being. I want to worship a creator. As humans, we're naturally designed for worship. So they see that, and they see the ultimate reverence. You're putting your forehead to the floor. That makes sense. We're worshiping the higher, we're submitting to the higher power. But this is what most people don't know, is that those practices, they actually come from Christianity, because as all of us know, Islam came much later, and it adopted the practices that it saw around, the Syriac Christians, the people that were really devoted to the faith. It saw that, it captured it, and it appropriated it. And it, even I have right here on this table, I have this prayer rope. When I'm around my Muslim friends, they have something very similar. And I ask them, I'm like, what do you pray with that? And
that's an Eastern Orthodox,
This
right?
is, I actually got this from the Oriental Orthodox
Oriental
Church.
Orthodox?
Yeah.
Okay. We have similar ones, yeah.
Yeah, so... And I asked my Muslim friend, I said, what do you pray when you're doing that? And he said something along the lines of like, Allah have mercy on me, something like that. And I'm like, that sounds very reminiscent of the Jesus prayer.
Jesus prayer. Yeah.
So I'm like, that's very interesting that you guys do that. Yeah. The prostrations. If you watch any Muslim apologists, they always have these low tier arguments about, Islam is the true faith because we have beards, we dress in robes, we look like Christ, we pray like Christ, we fast like Christ. Who is the true faith? You look at, because what they're doing is they're actually contrasting Protestantism with Islam. Protestantism is completely devoid of all most apostolic practice, if not all apostolic practices and traditions, so, depending on what you're looking at, right? So they're contrasting these things, and from the uneducated eye, they're going to see both of them and compare them and say, yeah, it looks like you guys are actually the true faith because you're continuing to do the things that Jesus did. But little do they know that those things come from Christianity in the truest sense and in the purest sense. They've appropriated it and they've presented that to the world. So, I mean, I would ask the Muslim, okay, if that is the basis on why your faith is correct, then you've just disqualified yourself, because we can point to the Christians that did this in the past and that continue to do this to this day. They don't know these things, and the average person doesn't know these things. I mean, you take a look at their mosques. It's the same architecture as the Byzantine style architecture. The Hagia Sophia, a lot of people don't know that belonged to the Christians before the Muslims, and it's really that's the cultural element of it, of why I also started Roots of Orthodoxy is I wanted to present this to people that were they felt like they had nowhere to go, and they saw this faith that looks very appealing, but they don't know they actually don't have to leave Christianity to find it. And you don't have to forsake Western values and Western ideals. As we know, Islam, I didn't plan on talking about Islam today. I have really good friends that are Muslim, but it's just a point of fact that Islam is not compatible with Western civilization. And here's why. You can ask somebody who's interested in Islam, do you value freedom of speech? And they're going to say yes. Do you value freedom of assembly? They're going to say yes. Do you value freedom of religion? They're going to say yes. Everything that you like about the United States, you have to forsake if you want to become Muslim, because that religion teaches everything that is antithetical to Western civilization. So if you value these things, if you value women's rights, if you have a love for your mother, your daughter, your sister, you have to abandon those things if you want to become Muslim, because you're going to forsake what built Western civilization, which is the Christian faith. The church built Western civilization. The United States has has a Protestant foundation, has very strong Christian values that are embedded into our society, and so you're forsaking that if you want to become that. And I slowly started to learn that. Alex, he told me this from the beginning. He said, you're going to find out that that's not what you think it is. And I did find that out. And so thank God, by the grace of God, that I didn't go that route. And I'm here as a Christian now, and I get to share the gospel with other people and have this big impact that it's having right now.
Your faith journey started with beauty and then went to dogmas and intellectual kind of arguments. How, after discovering the Byzantine rite, and Byzantine worship, the music, the candles, the icons, the incense, all of that inspired you to continue searching, and then how that intellectual conviction came forward?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I still think beauty is a very integral part of the faith. And as Dostoevsky says, beauty will save the world. And I truly, truly believe that. But yeah, it started with the experience. My experience of Orthodoxy has been very positive. I was told that when I visit the Orthodox Church that they would kick me out because I'm Catholic. That didn't happen. And they welcomed me with open arms. I had a very positive experience at the Orthodox Church, full of love, full of hospitality, full of grace, full of the Holy Spirit. It's very evident. It is there. I would never question that aspect of it. But on the other hand, you also have to take into consideration matters of dogma, because that is important. Matters of continuity, church history, scripture, because Christ. We all agree, all apostolic Christians believe that Christ founded one true church, the one holy Catholic and apostolic church. So you have at least four main claimants to that one true church. And it's worth considering, okay, out of these four main claimants, which one is the most likely to be the one true church that has continued until the present day. And we know that it can't be all four of them, unfortunately. As much love as I have for all of the traditions, it can't be all four of them. It has to be one. So I think that's worth diving into. The intellectual stuff is it's challenging because you can, on one day you feel very confident, like, oh, the Catholic Church is the one true church. There's no way. Then another day you're presented with some information, from the Orthodox perspective, and you're like, wow, actually, now I have something to consider, and so it's constant back and forth. And so I haven't really like stuck my flag in the sand as to like, this is the one true church, and I'm going to have everybody, I'm going to do my best to have everybody united to this church. But currently, you had asked me, are you a practicing Catholic? For a while, I wasn't, as I was on this journey, because I was like, I don't want to be a practicing Catholic until I know for sure that that's the route I want to go. But I started to think, there will never be a time where I don't believe that the Catholic Church has true sacraments, that it has true grace, that it has true apostolic succession, a true priesthood. So why not, in the midst of this journey, live the sacramental life, live my life in repentance, go to church, go to confession, receive the Eucharist, because I whether I become Orthodox, Eastern Orthodox, Oriental Orthodox, whatever it is, I'm always going to believe the Catholic Church has true sacraments. So I'm like, okay, so it doesn't make sense for me to not participate in that, because I do believe that Christ is present there. I know some Eastern Orthodox are not going to agree with that, but I know a lot of Eastern Orthodox, theologians even, that tell me that there is true grace in the Catholic Church. So I don't see it as being antithetical or incompatible, and I'm saying this now in this present moment. My mind might change in the future, but I really don't see that changing. I think that the apostolic churches have grace. Now, the question is not if it has grace. The question is it the fullness of the faith? Is it the fullness of the truth? Is it the fullness of the apostolic deposit of faith continued until the present day? That's really the question, because in some sense we can agree that there's grace in these churches. I mean, we've seen, the Mother of God appear above a Coptic church. Not, that happened in this
the Zaytun appearance,
in the 20th century. So how can I deny that? There's, you see these miracles every time I'm with I was just talking to Jarrett yesterday about the Coptic Church. Like I was calling it, with Abuna Lazarus, I was talking to him and I was like, this is like the Church of Miracles. Every time I'm with him, he's telling me some story about some miracle that happened, recently or in the past, or it's just nonstop miracles and apparitions and a lot of grace and people being saved in some form or fashion. And I'm like, wow. And I've had personal experiences, even just getting to know them, that some are kind of miraculous. Alex, Voice of Reason, has had experiences that are, with the Copts that are miraculous. And I'm like, it's very evident that Christ is working through this church. So for me, the intellectual stuff, it's fun to get into, but I think living the faith is the most important thing. Like, are you living the faith? Are you doing your prayers? Are you confessing? Are you living a true sacramental life? Are you living the commandments? Are you showing love and trying your best to display the light of Christ to other people that you interact with? That's always going to be first and foremost. And the intellectual stuff, I make sure that I put it in its proper bucket, and I'm not prioritizing that above everything else.
You've interviewed so many amazing priests and laymen. What is something that stands out to you as deeply shared between all of them?
So I think the common thread that I see in all of the priests that I've interviewed, the common thread, and it's the consistent theme that you see over and over and over again, is this display of humility. And that's really what has attracted me to Orthodoxy overall. It's a humility that I wasn't accustomed to. It's just really this beauty of, there's some people that you meet and you sit down with and you can feel that the grace is just overflowing. I put it like this, some of the people that I've met, you can feel the prayer dripping from their soul. You truly can. And I'm like, wow, I think I'm in the presence of a real saint. And so that's probably the common thread, that holiness that you see in each of the priests. And I think that's what was the unique about my channel, is that it wasn't apologists, it was priests. It was people that have an actual flock that they care for, that actually, you know, have, you know, they're in the church, that they actually truly live the church life. They're not just some apologist. And I think that's what was unique about the page early on. I hadn't seen that, you know, at the time. Now there's so many pages that are doing it, but and glory to God, because I think that's actually what's the key here is, you know, put the people that are living the faith, put them on camera, platform them, show people that, you know, show the people their testimonies, not only their testimonies, but just the witness of their character, of their example. That is the most, I think that in a lot of ways, that is the most compelling for many people. Most people are not theologians. Most people are not, they don't care about church history and what council said what. They're looking for, where can I find my place? Where can I find Christ? And they see a Father Lazarus speaking. They see, you know, an Eastern Orthodox priest speaking, and they're like, wow, whatever they have, I want, you know, whatever has caused them and compelled them to be the person that they are, I want to be a part of that. So I think the witness of the people, it's really showing to be the key here, you know.
You have friends that are Catholic, that are Eastern Orthodox and Oriental Orthodox. What are the differences in the way we show up in the secular world and position ourselves in the secular world?
In the secular world, from what I've observed, like from like, okay. Yeah, I think as Christians, we're called to be set apart from the world. And I think, you know, I have to be honest, I've seen the Coptic Church do a very good job of this, you know, really setting themselves apart and living not in the ways of the world, but living according to what Christ called us to do, you know, deny ourselves, pick up our cross, follow him, feed the poor. You know, a big shout out to Abuna Lazarus. He's been very instrumental just in my spiritual journey, I think. Just watching him, just seeing the holiness exuding from him. And I know he would hate for me to be saying this on,
he would be like, what are you talking about?
He's going to call you and say, take that part out. But that is really, I got to give it to the Coptic Church. They've been incredible. Of course, the Eastern Orthodox, also incredible. When I walk into the Eastern Orthodox Church, it's like you've put aside the worldly cares and you go into a place that is where time doesn't matter anymore. You're not thinking about your business. You're not thinking about, what am I going to do after? Oh, I got to run some errands, or I got to go eat, or, you know, I got to go to lunch. You're truly in a place that is outside of time and space. And I've really felt that at the Eastern Orthodox Church. So I give, that's where I would place them. And then the Catholics do a really good job with, you know, corporal works of mercy. You know, building hospitals and,
that's a good point. Yeah.
You know, really being there in the world and helping, you know, feed the hungry, clothe the needy. Evangelization is big, you know, in the Catholic Church. It's the largest church in the whole world. So yeah, that's how I would describe that. Describe the uniqueness that I've seen, you know, at least in my short time doing what I'm doing.
For someone who is evangelizing through social media, evangelizing through your channels, what are your non-negotiables? What are your rules that you follow every time to make sure that you're creating a safe space for others? You know, you being a Catholic, talking about Eastern Orthodoxy or Oriental Orthodoxy, how do you make sure that the viewers are in this safe environment to learn without any, you know, prejudice?
Yeah. I mean, I think you go into it without an agenda. I know people accuse me of having an agenda, but it's literally, I platform the priests, the Eastern Orthodox priests, and I give them a space to share their beliefs and their opinions. I don't censor them. I don't tell them, hey, Father, you shouldn't have said that. Or, hey, Father, you need to say it like this. I always I've had people on the left wing of the spectrum, people on the right wing of the spectrum, people that are in the middle. So it's not about, I only want to platform and curate this, you know, this agenda that this is what Orthodoxy is. It's like, no, I'm going to put it out there. And if you like it, you like it. If you don't, you don't. But as far as content creators, if we're speaking to content creators, And a lot of people ask me, how can I build a page? How can I build my apologetics page? Or how can I do something similar to what you're doing? I always tell them the same thing. Always remember why you're doing it. Always remember that this is all for the glory of God, and that everything that we do, we want to make sure that we're honoring God. And there's a big temptation. There's a big temptation to have pride and arrogance and feel cool because you have a lot of followers, or you got to speak at an event, or you know all these cool people now. That's a big temptation, and it's real temptation. So I always tell people, always make sure you have that North Star, that you're doing this for God, and don't neglect your prayer life. Don't think, and this is a big mistake that some people make, and I've made this mistake myself. Don't think because you're honoring God in the work that you do that God's going to give you a pass. Like, oh, I don't have to do my prayers. Like, I just did this big video that led people to Orthodoxy or whatever. Now I don't have to, like, and thankfully,
It's such a good point. Yeah.
yeah, thankfully that I always try to be very cautious of that. But the temptation of pride is always there. And I'll be honest, I've messed up in the past. There's a video of me where back in December, I think it was 2024, I was being an idiot, and I put my YouTube plaque, 100,000 followers. I put it on my wall amongst the icons. Now, it wasn't my prayer corner. It wasn't my prayer corner, but still, it's inappropriate, completely inappropriate. Any criticisms people had of me because of that, I fully grant them that. I'm like, that's true. Anything you said about me, that was true. That's
But it's an honest mistake.
yeah,
I mean,
I've repented from it, and it is a mistake. But I keep the video up. I want people to see, okay, I'm an idiot. I'm a regular person. I make mistakes, but I'm going to leave it up for my own humility, but also so people can see the progression, and also so people can see that temptation is really there. And when I started Roots of Orthodoxy, I specifically didn't want to put myself on the camera because I knew that temptation's there. You want to feel cool, that people know you and stuff like that. I was like, I don't want to put myself out there. I want it to just be the priest. I don't want people to know me as like the guy who does the interviews. But eventually I did end up making that mistake. I did end up showing myself. I did end up, now I do Roots of Faith, where I do come out in the videos, and now I'm starting to do more interviews. So I'm trying to be cautious of that, but also let people know this is a real temptation. If you're going to enter the content creation space, you have to make sure that you're doing it for the right reasons. I've had people come to me and tell me that they're doing it for God, and then really I help them out, and it's very clear that they're not doing it for God. And so that kind of breaks my trust in wanting to help people, because I'm like, well, I helped you build this page, and now you've shown me you're actually not doing this for God. You're doing it for your own glory. So I just, that's the biggest thing that I would tell people, just like, always make sure it's about providing value to people. And are you able to, at the end of the day, like when you're praying alone and you're talking to God, are you truly happy? Like a lot of the times, like we can make content that goes viral. We can make content that where we're compromising our integrity because we know it's going to get clicks or views or whatever. That's another thing, is like, don't do it for those reasons. Like, I know if I make this response video destroying this Protestant or whatever and just being the biggest jerk to him, it's going to get 1 million views, and it will. But can you truly, talk to God?
What's the goal with that, right?
Exactly. Can you truly talk to God? And it doesn't even have to be in the content space. I would argue with people all the time in comments, and even that, arguing with people in the messages, in the comments, and it's like, what am I doing? I'm just wasting time. I'm just over here on my phone, just like really heated, just going back and forth, and it's just not worth it. So those are the things for sure that I would tell people to be cautious about.
What are some of the conversations online that are worth having, and some that are not, just because they distract you from something that is more important?
Conversations that are worth having and not.
I mean, religious debates.
Yeah, I mean, so debates have their place. I wouldn't denigrate, debates, but there's a way to do it. I think there's a way to do it where you're not, so debates have a higher propensity towards that temptation of pride, because I can't look stupid because I'm going to be debating. I need to make sure that I owned you, that everybody thinks that I won. So it's the temptation for pride is even higher, and especially if you're doing it in front of a live audience. So But debates have their place, and we see it all throughout church history. The saints would debate their opponents, but the saints would never do it from a place of pride. It was always from a place of trying to defend the true faith.
That's also love, right? For
out of love, out of love,
yeah.
out of love. So it's always like, and we have to remember the saints were holy people first and foremost that lived deep lives of prayer and repentance. And they were bishops, they were priests, they were monks. They weren't just like, I want to go debate so and so because I want to look cool, or I want people to know how much knowledge I have about the faith. A lot of these saints didn't even want to do what they did. A lot of them didn't even want to engage in these polemics, but they had to. They had to step up to the plate. Saint Gregory Palamas, he's an Eastern Orthodox saint, and he was one of these individuals. He just wanted to live his monastic life, and when he was confronted with a reason to defend his faith, he stepped up to the plate. But he didn't want to. He wasn't seeking that. I think a lot of the times in the online world, we're looking for that. We want that challenge, and we want to show people how great we are. We look at it more like it's a competitive sport, like a UFC match or something. Like I want to prove that I'm the champion right now. So that's a big temptation. I'm not a part of that world, thankfully, and I don't think I ever will be. But it's definitely something to watch out for.
I absolutely love the posture that you have in your interviews, your humility and your honest desire to learn. Do you think that really helps your people that you interview to relax and not be defensive and be honest, fully honest with you during the interviews?
Yeah, I appreciate you saying that, because I actually don't think I'm a good interviewer. I just I always my whole philosophy is perfection is the impediment to progress. So it's like, I don't want to wait till I'm a good interviewer to start doing interviews. So I'm like, I know I suck, and I'm just going to put it out there. And glory to God, it's worked, and people enjoy doing the interviews with me. But recently I sat down with Mike from the Orthodox Spirit, and he's a very gentle guy. He's very quiet, and he's very he gives off a very soft presence. And I was like, oh, now I kind of feel how it is to be on the other end of it. I always try to, set the premise that, there's no agenda as far as this is what I want out of it. The video comes out how it comes out, and I think the priests I honestly think the priests they're oftentimes undervalued in their communities. They do so much, the priests, they're shepherding this big flock. Oftentimes, especially Orthodox churches, Oriental and Eastern, there's a priest shortage in both churches, but there's a massive influx of growth, people that are becoming catechumens and people that want to become Orthodox. And so there's a lot of pressure right now on priests, and to be able to give them a platform where they can share their thoughts and share how they're feeling and stuff like that. I think they really appreciate that. And I try to just ask questions that are open-ended and just kind of let them say what give them a space to speak. And I think that, I think that they appreciate that.
I think people feel that, that feel that you are just giving them a platform to, voice their opinions without having, Did you start Roots of Orthodoxy and Roots of Faith as something that was just a mere curiosity, or did you feel a nudge from the Holy Spirit to do that?
Maybe it was a nudge. I would say Roots of Orthodoxy for sure. There was a big driving force that compelled me to want to do it. It had been brewing in my mind for a while, and I was like, I would really love to do this. I really wanted to. Here's a very interesting thing. I wanted to do Roots of Orthodoxy for Islam back when I was very interested in Islam, and I wanted to become Muslim. Thankfully, I didn't. I wanted to do that same concept of interviewing whatever Muslim people. Thankfully, I didn't. But I think that I had that nudge for sure to want to do that, and because I saw my first experience at an Orthodox church was just so beautiful. It was just so perfect. It was like something out of a movie. Right when I walked in, I just happened to walk in at the right time with where they were chanting these beautiful hymns, and the incense was going, and I saw the beams of light coming through the windows, and there was just something ancient
that I felt, and I was like, wow, this is truly like, this is very different than what I'm accustomed to in the Catholic Church. So, yeah, I think that's it happened at the right time, and I think the nudge was definitely there.
The Roots of Orthodoxy is mainly Eastern Orthodox
Yes.
channel. And then on the Roots of Faith, I see more interviews with Oriental Orthodox priests and laymen.
Yeah.
What surprised you about Oriental Orthodoxy?
Yeah, so Roots of Faith, I just treat it more like a podcast, just conversational, and it's really open-ended. I wanted to have fun theological conversations with people. But what surprised me about the Oriental Orthodox faith, I've always had a love and respect for the Oriental Orthodox. When we started Voice of Reason, the Oriental Orthodox always showed us the most love. For some reason, it was the Ethiopians. They really loved the content. They would comment all the time for Alex to make a video on the Ethiopian church. They just wanted to see somebody platform them or something like that. And so I've always had a deep respect for the Oriental Orthodox Church. I think especially with how much you all love Christ. I mean, your liturgies are super long. You know, your fasting is very intense. And I was at the Coptic liturgy just yesterday, and I was like, I don't even know if I could be Coptic. I mean, this is really intense. Like,
It's 2 hours, right?
2 hours.
2.5
It could be more.
hours too. Armenian liturgy is also 2.5.
Yeah, 2.5, 3 hours
3
even.
sometimes. Yeah.
I've heard that in Ethiopia 6 hours maybe. So I'm like, wow, they have a very deep love and reverence for God that it's like
You're spending the whole day with Christ.
Yeah.
If you're 6 hours of
Yeah, so I guess what surprised me is just the love that, I mean, that didn't really surprise me, but when I finally got to meet Abuna Lazarus for the first time, he was the real first Orthodox priest that I Oriental Orthodox priest that I met and I worked with, and he was just so loving. He helps anyone and everyone. He loves, you know, he loved us. He treated us like we were like his sons, you know, myself and Alex and even Jarrett, you know, and to see that, I'm like, man, we're not even Coptic, and you're treating us so well. Like, you're giving us so much love and hospitality. He'll extend the same thing to Eastern Orthodox, to anybody. It doesn't even matter if the way he helps homeless people, the way he helped people that were not even like Christian. So that I think, I guess, to see like how deep that love actually went is what surprised me.
He definitely chose the right profession.
Yeah, he definitely did. Yeah.
You once said that Oriental Orthodox don't have the same baggage as maybe Eastern Orthodox or Catholics. Could you speak a little bit more about that?
Yeah,
What
we
exactly
actually
you
just
meant?
did a panel yesterday, myself and Agan with Apostolic Orthodoxy, Subdeacon Daniel from Lion's Den, and Father Gabriel from Coptic Orthodox Answers on the papacy. And that was one of the points that they were trying to hit home, is that we, from their perspective, they would say we got out of the, you know, we broke away from the West and the Eastern Orthodox before we started to see these, you know, these big papal claims being made, papal authority. So whereas the Eastern Orthodox continued, they continued to have more councils. The Oriental Orthodox Church recognizes 3 councils that are in common with the Catholic Church, you know, the Council of Nicaea 325, the Council of Constantinople, and the Council of Ephesus. Whereas the Eastern Orthodox, they continued until the Council of Nicaea II, 787. So there's a little bit more that they have with them. And I think the term that Agan used was like, there's been so much that has been fermented, you know, over that period of time, that it's a little bit harder for them. I'm still willing to explore the possibilities of how they can square that. You know, I try to be as charitable as possible with everyone in the Eastern Orthodox. But yeah, the Oriental Orthodox, because of the break that was so early, you've been able to maintain the apostolic traditions that you've had, and you don't have as much baggage, you know, being in the Byzantine world or the you know, the medieval world with the West. So it's very interesting. I'm still learning about the Oriental Orthodox, but I'm just enjoying it. I'm enjoying it. It's very beautiful.
I have a feeling we're yet to surprise you.
Yeah.
You recently sat down with Vartan from Full Armor Apologetics. How was it like? What did you learn about Armenian Orthodoxy?
He's awesome. He's awesome. I love Armenians. Every time I'm out here, I actually
We love you too.
yeah, I actually go out of my way to go to Glendale to get Armenian food every time I'm out here. And yeah, I mean, it was awesome. I think he was the first Armenian Christian that apologist that I've met, and I was honored to do an interview with him. And yeah, and you know, this is actually what I think is very unique about the Oriental Orthodox Church, just the level of persecution that you guys have endured. The Armenian genocide, even from the Coptic side, the people that have, to this day, people that are being affected in Alexandria, Ethiopia, different parts of Africa. And that is it's very sad, but it makes me love the Oriental Orthodox that much more, I think. Yeah. I love Armenians. And I'm not just saying that because we're in the Armenian church right now, but
would you like to come to our liturgy
absolutely.
and witness our liturgy?
Yeah, Alex cannot stop talking to me about how beautiful the liturgy is. So, and I keep telling him, I say, hey, for me, the Byzantine liturgy is the pinnacle of worship experience. I said, I don't see anything beating that. So I don't know. We'll see. I'll keep an open mind.
Of course, it's not a competition,
no,
but
yeah, exactly.
I'm very sure you are going to enjoy Armenian liturgy.
How much of it is in English, though?
Oh, yes. So that's an important point. We do have screens. For instance, in my church where I go, we do have screens with translation, but it is Armenian liturgy, fully Armenian, yes. So you will just have to enjoy the music and but you can see the translation of the hymns. Of course, we also have booklets with the hymns where you can see the translation. But music is such an important part of our worship, always has been. And I think people do notice that the voices of both female and male voices are so strong. And that united worship is just so beautiful.
Yeah. And it's no instruments, right? Is it?
Some of the Armenian churches in Armenia, they do a cappella. But in most of the churches, there's organ. And that's the Catholic influence.
Yeah.
And but organ is such a glorious instrument.
Yeah.
I think it was also something that God wanted to be in church because it's such a powerful sound. And I think no wonder that Armenian picked up organ because it just makes sense in the setting of our liturgy to have organ. But there are also the ones without instruments. I don't dislike organ at all. I think it's
I like it.
Beautiful,
I enjoy it.
Beautiful instrument, and
I prefer a cappella. Like I just prefer like the acoustic
human instruments.
Yeah, and then the churches are designed for that type of like the sound to bounce off of the walls, and so I really appreciate that. The cool thing though is like you go to liturgy, even if you don't understand it, like you know that something holy is taking place. You're seeing the reverence, you're seeing the Eucharist is on the altar, like something sacred is taking place. So even if you don't understand it, you're getting to you get a taste of it regardless. Yeah.
Can I ask you this question? If you had a chance to gather Eastern Orthodox, Armenian, or other Oriental Orthodox and Catholics and ask them one question about union of the church or the future of the church, what question would you ask? I know it's a tricky one.
That's a good question, but it's very, very loaded, very hard to, what would I ask if I got them all to sit down? I think that's important though, like getting together in council and having at least having the dialogues, at least because the worst part is like not having the dialogues and saying you guys are over there, we're over here, don't ever talk to us. I think that's the issue. I think having the dialogue is important. And I know I get called like all these things online, ecumenist, heretic. I'm not somebody who's trying to blur the lines between the faiths. Like I do recognize their differences, and like I said earlier, there can only be one true church that Christ established. You can't be all four. Unfortunately, as much love as I have for everybody. So yeah, I mean, I think just how can we make this happen? Because the Lord desired that we be one. So what can we do to make this happen? And then that council would be very, very, very be very long for sure.
I think we can learn a lot from each other too.
Definitely.
From each other's experiences. The way Catholics are socially active, all the works that you guys are doing, we can learn a lot from you guys too. And hopefully there's something that we treasured and kept, this secret,
Yeah.
which is not a secret, of
Yeah.
course, but this reverence that our church has, the Oriental Orthodox churches have, maybe that is something that would shine also in the world.
Definitely. Yeah.
I thank you with all my heart for today's conversation.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
I absolutely enjoyed listening to you. And I'm so glad you started to give interviews because you have a lot to say.
I hope I didn't bore you, but
absolutely
I'll
not.
get better at these.
Absolutely
Yeah.
not. It was a pleasure. Thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank
Really
you.
appreciate
And
it. Thank
I
you.
wish you good luck with whatever you choose. You know, you're still, your journey, as I said, is still unfolding.
Yes.
So
So please
we'll
pray for me.
see.
Yeah. Thank you.
We will.
Appreciate it.
Thank you so much. God bless you. Friends, if today's episode inspired you, don't forget to subscribe to Jonathan's channels. The links are in the description down below. And if you're new here, I would really appreciate it if you subscribe to my channel, Ola Sona, as well as the channel of the Western Diocese of the Armenian Church WD. You can find previous episodes and more resources on my YouTube channel as well. Thank you for being here, for sharing these conversations, and for helping this community of faith grow one story at a time. See you next time. Bye.